No, don't. Did you really just ask that live on this podcast?
We're Nick and Hannah True, and we'll help you craft a money story that not only gives you personal freedom, but also creates a positive impact in your family and community. Welcome to Craft Your Money Story, a Mapped Out Money podcast. So this episode is like very much piggybacking off of the last episode.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched that last episode, I would definitely go watch that first.
Yeah. Because we talked about how in order for your financial discipline to not just feel like drudgery, you've got to have direction. But now we're talking about the importance of remembering that direction, because that can be a lot harder than it sounds.
Totally. Yeah, and it's probably as important as having the direction in the first place.
Absolutely. Because if you have that direction, but you don't regularly put it in front of your face and think about it, it's not going to help you. You're just going to, you're going to forget about it, and it's not going to help guide you in your daily decisions. Yeah.
And I think like a telltale sign of this is you just kind of find yourself slipping back into old patterns, you know, old routines. Maybe you set direction, you set a budget, you're all jazzed up, but then a couple months go by and you're kind of slipping back into old ways of spending, or kind of not really looking at the budget as much. And, you know, you just find yourself kind of back where you were. And that's a good indication that you've probably lost or forgotten the direction you set.
Sometimes maybe it's that the direction you set isn't actually compelling to you, but sometimes maybe it's just that you've lost sight of what that direction was.
Yeah, life just got in the way. Yeah. You know? So we were at church a couple of weeks ago, and the associate pastor there, this guy named Andrew, shared this awesome story. He was talking about it as it relates to not remembering heaven and not remembering where you're going, and losing sense and getting caught up in the fog of life.
Yeah.
And letting that deter you from remembering your ultimate sort of destination.
Well, he was saying, like, why bother learning about heaven and what it's going to be like if we're not going to be able to like fully grasp it while we're here on earth.
Yes.
And basically he told the story of Florence Chadwick, right? Wasn't that her name?
Yeah.
Okay. You can tell it. You tell it.
No, you tell it.
So in 1952, she attempted to swim from California mainland to Catalina Island. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And
so I think like that you swim from like San Diego to Catalina Island, I think is the idea.
Is that the same stupid question? The English Channel?
No, don't. Did you really just ask that live on this podcast?
No.
So,
But he said something about her swimming the English Channel.
She also did swim the English Channel, which is in
but
France
these were different
and
swims.
England.
These were different swims.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Is the English Channel between California and...
I didn't ask that. That was so silly of you to ask, Nick.
Hey guys, I'm sitting here editing this video, and boy, do I sound dumb. But I'm going to leave it in there because I've gotten a good laugh out of it, and I hope that you do too. But I reminded myself of Miss South Carolina answering a geography question in some pageant. So I'm going to stick a clip of that in here. If you haven't seen it, it's real good. Nick and I laugh over it a lot. In fact, when I was downloading it to put into this video, I kept getting tickled, and Nick texted me. He was on calls on the other side of the room, and he was like, whatever you're watching, stop it. You keep laughing. So I was trying to do it quietly, but apparently I was not doing a great job. The other thing I wanted to say is that a lot of the footage in this video is blurry, and I can't tell if the camera is focusing on our coffee cups or our pets, but either way, it's obvious that the camera has its priorities in just the right order. So I hope that you enjoy this despite the blurry footage and don't have too much fun laughing at me, and I'm going to distract you with the Miss South Carolina clip.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Anyways, okay, so she was in the middle of some big swim somewhere.
San Diego to Catalina Island.
Okay.
Continue.
Was it
You're doing
definitely
great.
that
Keep,
swim?
Keep it up.
Was it definitely that
It's
swim
definitely
and
that
not
swim.
the English channel
100%.
that she failed at?
100%.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure. If these facts are wrong, blame Nick.
You're telling the story.
Okay, but the point is, she was on this big swim, okay?
22 miles.
Doesn't even matter where it was. And she was like wearing out. She like came back over to the boat, and her mom was like, no, keep going. You're so close, blah, blah. So she like goes and she keeps going a little bit more, and she just gets to the point. She's like, I cannot
do
go
it.
any further. Like this fog had set in. She couldn't even see like where she was in relation to everything. And like, she was like, I'm just done.
And there's a website I found, which is womensmuseum.wordpress.com. So I don't know how accurate that is, but it said that she was 15 hours in at this point.
Okay. Out of...
Just 15, I don't know how long it takes, but 15 hours in. So
Okay.
she's 22 miles, 15 hours in, and she's like throwing in the towel.
Hey, Scout's over here. Okay, so she throws in the towel. She gets in the boat. She stands up and is able to see like over the fog for the first time. And according to Andrew Kiesling, we're getting these facts from a lot of different places.
Doesn't matter. The point of the moral of the story is great. Keep going.
She was almost there. She was like less than like half
Half
a mile away,
or so,
right?
yeah.
So, and afterwards, she said they have this quote from her, and she said, "I'm not excusing myself, but if I could have seen the land, I might have made it." And so then a couple of months later, she attempted to swim again, and she succeeded that time. But basically, it was this: she was so lost in the fog, and she couldn't see where she was headed, and it made her give up. And so, his point was like, we get lost in the fog of everyday life, and learning about heaven, knowing where we're headed, knowing the promises of God, those are what help us see through the fog of life. And so in the same way, like your vision document reminds you of like, why do I even care about stewarding my money in the first place?
Why are you budgeting? Why are you trying to be disciplined with your money? You've got to be able to see the Catalina Island that you're going to.
You got to be able to see that English channel, Catalina Island.
You got to be able to see the Catalina Island off the coast of France in the English Channel.
I had geography issues. It's a thing. Let's just move past it.
So the moral of the story, though, is great. And like when he told the story, I was like, oh my gosh, that's just like budgeting. It is just like budgeting, because if you get caught up in the fog of paying the bills and just living paycheck to paycheck and just trying to make it through and feed your family and buy the groceries and just keep up, and you're in that fog and that haze of life and you can't see the vision, you are not going to want to stick to the budget, and you're just going to want to do whatever it takes to just get by, and you're going to give up, and you're not going to keep the financial discipline you got to have because you lost sight of the vision. The fog's too thick. Hey, y'all, I wanted to take a quick break and let you know about our email newsletter that goes out each week to almost 20,000 people just like you. We put this newsletter out for two main reasons. The first is that algorithms on social media don't always show you everything you're subscribed to or want to see. And the newsletter is a place for us to let you know and keep you updated on any new videos or podcasts that we've released. The second reason is the newsletter allows us to go a bit more behind the scenes and share some stuff that we don't always put out on public platforms. So if that sounds interesting or helpful for you, go to mappedoutmoney.com/newsletter to sign up. So what we wanted to share was that story, but then also now that hopefully you're convinced at how important regularly reminding yourself of the vision so that you can see where you're going is, we wanted to share some things that have worked for us in terms of having these sort of reminders in place so that we don't get caught up in the fog.
I think the biggest thing is just having it on your calendar to go and review and make adjustments to your vision.
Yeah.
But if it's not on the calendar, you won't do it.
You will not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put a date on the calendar every single quarter to go through and actually set aside time to look at the vision. Hey, what's changed? What's not changed? We have kind of a list of questions we'll run through to update that vision doc and remind ourselves what it is that we're really working towards here.
But even once a quarter, may not be enough. And so like Nick and I try to have like a weekly meeting where we
Yes.
kind of talk about like what's going on this week, what are we doing in the business, what's going on with that, what's going on with this. And that's really kind of a time to review these things as well,
I think it also depends on how thick the fog is.
Yeah.
So like Lori, so this woman who's in our Head in 100, she's actually in our alumni program. Lori has been working with us for, I guess, maybe 18 months now. She and her husband, John, have just had a lot of fog. I'll just leave it at that. They've had a lot of fog over the last year and a half, a lot of different things in their life that have been difficult to see through and see through the other side. And for basically a year or more, she would email me an updated vision doc every month. So they were going through their vision every month and tweaking things, adding things, using it as a reminder of what they're really trying to work through. And for her, quarterly was not enough. They were in a season of life where she really needed to be looking at this on a monthly basis to remind her and John of like, what are they doing? What are we working towards? Where are we trying to go? And that was the cadence they needed. And so I think
that kind of comes down to like a self-awareness.
yes.
Thing.
What season are you in?
Yeah.
You may need to review this more often, depending on what season you're in.
Yeah, totally. All right. So from there, why don't you talk about this one? Because this one, I think I do this as well, but you do it even to a larger degree than
so
I do.
I'm super visual. I'm a very visual person. And one of the things that I found very helpful is almost like a go-to snapshot image in my mind. And so I have our vision doc built out with a number of things that we want to achieve over the course of our, 3 to 5 years. But I have an image in my head that I would say basically represents the spirit of the future vision that we're casting. And when budgeting feels hard and when it feels like I really want to go out to eat, but we don't have any more money, or I really want to buy this thing and we're kind of out and I really don't want to stick to the budget, I'm able to revert back to this image that is burned into my mind of where that represents where we're going and why I'm budgeting. And when I remember that image, it gives me the gumption to go, no, I really do want to stick to this budget. It's really important. And so I've shared that exercise with different people, and like some people's images that they come up with would be like a backyard barbecue in a house that they own with all of their family around. And it's like they want to buy a really beautiful house. They will want to have a place where they can host family and their kids.
You want to be able to go buy a bunch of groceries to
Yes.
like host a good gathering for everybody and whatever. And
Yes.
those like things not wreck your budget. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
And that image reminds them of the sort of the spirit of their vision that they're working towards. The image could be you and your spouse in like a really far off vacation that you've taken that was a dream that you had always dreamed of but never really seemed possible. The vision or the image could be the fact that you're waking up on Monday morning and not going to that job you hate, right?
Yeah.
It could be like just you drinking coffee slowly on a Monday morning, and that image is like, yes, that's what I'm working towards. And so I think having a visual in your head of what you're working towards that you can go to
Yeah.
when you feel that, sort of temptation to blow the budget can be really powerful.
I agree. All right. So let's see from there, kind of along those same lines, just, like maybe there's a picture from a magazine that like inspires you or whatever. Or I know like you will set your desktop background
Totally.
with different things. And so yeah, just taking advantage of like some of those highly visible places to put something there that reminds you of
For
what's
years,
important.
I had my laptop background was a picture of an RV in a cool location, right? Because that's what was driving us to like really budget. And then it changed. And so I'll update my phone backgrounds, my computer backgrounds. I'll put images on the wall that represent the vision or the direction that we're going.
Yeah. Okay. Next one, finding a community of like-minded people. Like this is so important. Finding people that have similar values to you? I mean, obviously they're not going to be exactly the same, but just being in a community where you don't feel like you're crazy for working
Yes.
towards these things. Because the fact is, like, if you're trying to steward your money well and you're trying to be thoughtful about the way you're living your life, you're likely in the minority.
Totally.
Like, that's probably, oh, my Scout's going to talk into the microphone. There's likely like not a ton of people around you doing that.
Yeah, you're weird.
Yeah.
And so, like James Clear has this great quote where he says, one of the best ways that you can build a new habit is to join a group where that habit is considered normal behavior.
Yeah.
And so if you can surround yourself with people where budgeting and consciously spending and visioning and thinking about, how you spend according with your values is considered normal and a normal part of conversation, that will massively, massively increase your odds of actually, sticking with it and being disciplined.
Yep. All right. What's the next one?
So we have Bible study on here. So for us, if we start the day with Bible study, it grounds us for the day, for the week of reminding us of what we're trying to do. Ultimately, that's our the thing that is our guiding light, right? And so for us, getting in the Word every single day helps ground us and remind us of our sense of direction and our sense of purpose and mission. And if we start the day like that, kind of all the other stuff starts to fall into place. And it's much easier to stick to the budget as well as all the other things because we've started off with that reminder of what's important to us.
Yep. Okay. So you need direction, but then which comes in the form of your vision and values document, or at least for us, it does. And on top of having that, you also need to remind yourself of it and
Yes.
get it in front of yourself on a regular basis. So again, if that's something that you want help with, visit map.money.com/vision to get that template.
Yep.
All right.
Hope that
I think
helps.
that's it.